Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch 8 to 10, Wednesday through Sunday, with our platforms also on Instagram and Twitter. Like, comment, share, and subscribe when possible. Check out our great website at macandjack.com. It's called Mac's Sports Insiders for information on all the insiders, articles, team public relation updates, and our great sponsor links for their products and services. I'm Mac with my co-host Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer, former president of the National Boxing Writers Association, bringing you national sports with special focus on our Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. How you doing today, Jack?
I'm doing great, Mac. How are you?
I'm hanging right in there, Jack. Today on the show, Jack, we have the Philly sports guy, Jamie Pags, we'll call him. He'll be in there to give us our Philly sports update. And we also have Dan Hirschburg on. He's an author of the Yankees biography on Phil Rizzuto, the great shortstop from the Yankees. He's not no relation to you, is he, Jack? I mean, Jack.
No, not at all. He's an old friend. I haven't seen him in years. He got in touch with me after, about 25 years. And we talked a couple of weeks ago, and I invited him on the show. Great guy. We used to hang out a little in the world of boxing, but now he's more involved with baseball. In addition to the book he'd written on Phil Rizzuto a while ago, he currently writes for the Sporting News. And he does stories on a lot of old-time baseball players, so I kind of want to touch upon that.
Very cool, Jack. Very cool. It was a good get by you. Let's do our sports update real quick. Of course, we know for the first time, I think in history, I'm not sure if it's so or not, but we do have the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, it's been rescheduled a bunch of times because of the COVID problem over there. So today, people will be able to watch football if they're home. There was some word out by Hayward, who left Boston to go to Charlotte, and he said,
Hayward,
he said that he left Boston because he never forgot the commitment that Charlotte had. The Charlotte's owner saw in him years ago when he was up for, I guess some kind of signing, and the Utah Jazz matched it. And he likes their vision and his impact that, they believe, he could have, and that he believes he could have. And I really think it's about the $120 million, Jack. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it's about the $120 million. And let's face it, the Charlotte Hornet owner is the most influential of all owners talking to a player one-on-one, because it's Michael Jordan. I mean,
right.
If Michael Jordan seeks you, he wants you on your team, he has your attention. MJ's a hard guy to turn down, because when you look at MJ, you see greatness, and he'll tell you the vision he has for the Hornets to be great. Never mind that MJ has been about the worst owner in the NBA. The Hornets have been chronic losers under his direction, but nevertheless, with that great documentary, The Last Dance, having come out, Jordan's popularity is, sky high, and he was influential without a doubt. But you hit it on the head, Mac, once again. The $120 million for 4 years didn't hurt.
I mean, that's a lot of money for a player that's been injured quite frequently too, Jack. I mean, he's a great player. I'm not taking nothing away from Gordon Hayward, but he's been injured a lot, and $120 million is a lot of money for a guy that's been hurt as much as he has been.
But let me tell you, they got LaMelo Ball, number 3 overall in the draft. He potentially could be a star in this league. And now you have Gordon Hayward, who's a heck of a player when he's healthy. You put them in the starting lineup, the two of them. All of a sudden, the Hornets are relevant.
Yeah.
So, they're relevant.
Yeah, no doubt. ESPN, Herb Street, he's an announcer over there, apologized for the comment that Michigan could opt out playing Ohio because of COVID and keep Ohio State out of the playoffs for not playing 6 games. So I guess he said that, that Michigan should throw in the white towel, and that, of course, there's 6 games, which I think is crazy. that Ohio State would have to be 6-0 to have a shot.
Well, who said that? I didn't get that news, Matt.
Herbstreit. He works for ESPN. He covers college. So what a way that Michigan could get back at Ohio State.
He got his name in the news. Good for him.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Because of that big fight, or I shouldn't say big fight because it was exhibition, between Tyson and Jones, Buster Douglas now wants to fight Tyson again in a rematch, Jack. What do you think about it?
Buster Douglas has less resolve than any fight I've ever seen, with the exception of Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Buster Douglas is probably about 500 pounds now. He'd come into the ring woefully out of weight. As soon as Tyson would throw a meaningful punch, Douglas would lie down and collect the money.
Yeah.
Buyer beware. Buyer beware. I don't even want to talk about Buster Douglas, okay? Even talking about him, I feel, is a waste of my time, let alone, shelling out my money to watch him in this ill-fated, so-called exhibition that he's talking about.
Well, Stanford College is moving so they can keep playing. We know that the 49ers moved from their home, and Stanford College now is moving so they can keep playing college football, Jack. Alabama and Notre Dame are the top two in the ratings right now. So, they played almost a full schedule of games. So has Clemson. And, with Ohio State, I think if they play 6 games, if they go 6-0, I don't think they should be allowed in the playoffs. That's just my personal opinion, Jack. So.
Yeah, who knows going forward what's even going to be with the college playoffs? I mean, there could be postponements, delays. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know either. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard nothing about them talking about a bubble or anything like that. So, Jack, we're doing something new. We're gonna start doing a wall of fame on our website. Our first inductee, and I think you would have no problem with this, is Babe Ruth, Red Sox ace pitcher, Yankees power hitter, 714 RBIs, home runs, 342 batting average with over 2,000 RBIs. I think it's not an unfair statement that he changed professional sports, Jack. I mean, the way he carried himself off the field, all the promotion, he kind of turned a ballpark game into a professional game. And, of course, people came from, miles around, sold out away stadiums just to go see Babe Ruth play. Still has the greatest slugging percentage of all time in Major League Baseball. So that's our first inductee, folks, into the Wall of Fame. You can check out the website at macandjacksports.com. It's called Max Sports Insiders. So if you have a chance, go out and check out the website. And we just added the Wall of Fame over there.
A little comment. If the Red Sox had to name an all-time starting rotation, an all-time Red Sox starting rotation, of course, you'd look at guys like Clemens, Pedro Martinez, Kurt Schilling, but there's a good chance Babe Ruth would crack that rotation as a pitcher.
Yeah.
He won twice as many games as he lost and set World Series record for scoreless innings. And he could have made the Hall of Fame as a pitcher if he wasn't traded to the Yankees.
There's no doubt about that, Jack, because, he still has the lowest ERA in World Series appearances. I think it's 0.94 if I'm not mistaken. He had multiple 20-game season winnings. He finished twice behind the great Walter Johnson. So he was up there as a pitcher as well as a hitter. The Yankees knew that he had some pop in his bat, so they put him in right field.
I got to tell you a funny thing. Could you imagine the Babe could come back for one day, come back to earth, and they had him play one game and they had him pitch? Imagine he went 0 for 5, but pitched a scoreless ball for 3-hit scoreless ball for 7 innings.
That would be unbelievable, right?
Yeah,
definitely. So, Jack, we're going to get into the standings where we can update our standings going into the next week game, what happened last week. First, interim coach of the Lions is excited about the opportunity to coach the Lions. Don't have his name here, Jack. I didn't grab it real quick, but The Lions, I wouldn't be excited about coaching the Lions right now, Jack. I mean,
jobs are hard to come by. Very few assistant coaches or otherwise are going to turn down the head coaching position. I
definitely.
mean, someone like Bill Belichick, he can leave New England. He's going to get another head coaching job very, very easily. I mean, like when Bill Cowher left the Steelers, he was in demand for a lot of years. So
Sure.
certain coaches, a select few can just wait on their job. Let's say Bill Parcells came out of retirement and said, I want to coach again. Lions would be calling him up. Jacksonville would be calling him up. I'm just giving an example here.
Sure. Sure.
But for the vast majority of coaches, you grab what you can take because you might never get a head coaching job again.
Which leads to the question, do you think Patricia goes back to New England, Jack?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Unless he's given a coordinator's position with another team where he sees more of a future becoming a head coach again. If it goes back with New England, the chances of him ever becoming head coach there are virtually non-existent for two reasons. On the coaching staff are Josh McDaniels, who's the offensive coordinator, who's supposedly the person in waiting, and more importantly, Bill Belichick's son, Steve Belichick, who reportedly has called a number of plays, and his dad, of course, says, oh, his son has done a good job calling the plays. There's a little history in this. I don't know whether people remember this. When Weeb Ewbank coached the Jets and decided to step down as Jet coach, he was a Jet GM as well. He was in charge of hiring the next coach. Well, in the wings was Walt Michaels, his defensive coordinator, and who was his assistant for years, his loyal assistant. Yet he went outside the organization and he gave the job to Charlie Winner, who had coached the St. Louis Cardinals football team. Now, why did Charlie Winner get the job over Weeb Ewbank's loyal assistant, Walt Michaels? Because Charlie Winner was Weeb Ewbank's son-in-law. That's why. So Bill Belichick's son is waiting in the wings if Bill Belichick should step down. But Robert Kraft makes that decision.
Definitely. So let's get to the standings real quick, Jack. The AFC East, the Bills are on top at 8-3. The Dolphins at 7-4. The Patriots with a big win stay alive as they beat Arizona, and the Jets are still winless at 0-11.
I'm telling you, I'd wince if I were the Patriots. Losing that game a week ago to the Texans, a winnable game. Had they won that game, they'd be 6-5 now instead of 5-6. Right. They'd actually be making a run at winning the division.
Definitely.
Wow.
I know. AFC West, the Chiefs against the Bucs. They won last week, and they're at 10-1 right now. The Raiders with an embarrassing loss. Atlanta are 6-5, followed by Denver and the Chargers. Here I was kind of getting on the Raiders train a little bit, Jack. You know, they've been playing good physical ball. And, you know, as they say, any given Sunday. But, man, that was embarrassing what Atlanta did to him.
And listen, I was at fault, too. I was saying, Derek Carr has proved he's the Raiders franchise quarterback. And then he was awful against the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, they lose that game 43-7.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, they were awful, and it was the second loss in a row. But my feeling is the week before they played this very emotional game against the Chiefs, in which they lost that game at the wire. So I can understand a letdown. But I'm going to tell you this: when you look at who they're playing this week. I mean, there's help on the way for the Raiders. Have medicine. They're being given medicine this week in the form of the New York Jets.
That's true.
If they don't get back on track against the Jets, at the very least win the game, then they do have problems.
Definitely. In the AFC North, the Steelers are still undefeated. Of course, their game has been postponed constantly with the Ravens. The Browns will have their first winning season, Jack. They're right now 8-3. And NFL's most favorite team, and I'm saying this with, tongue in cheek, who get their games postponed for COVID while other teams play without a quarterback, the Ravens, and then they're followed by the Bengals, Jack.
Let me tell you, the Steelers are the one team that should be so ticked off the players. They were supposed to play Thanksgiving. You know what's good about playing the Thanksgiving game, especially if you're the Steelers? You win that game like they were expected to, and Mike Tomlin would probably give them the 3 days off. That's what they would probably promise. Wow, we're going to have actually some time off. It's something you don't have during the NFL season, and then get back to work on Monday. But the
Right?
game gets postponed from Thursday to Sunday, then Sunday to Tuesday, and now it's today, Wednesday, and they haven't had time off.
Right? Oh, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, they have to be very ticked off. And then they got to play again, I think, next Monday or Tuesday. They got the Washington Redskins. So this, and they're going to have a short week after this week through no fault of their own.
Yeah, it's very true. And I just don't understand why some teams can play without a quarterback while other teams keep getting their games postponed and rescheduled. It doesn't seem fair.
Supposedly Denver broke some of the rules, the protocol and all with the quarterbacks and with Drew Lock. It's unclear. I wish we had a little more information, but maybe the league might figure if certain teams haven't followed the guidelines, the heck with them. We're not giving them any slack.
Yeah. The Titans ride the Derrick Henry train, Jack, into first, followed by the very good 7-4 Colts, the surging Texans, who have put some games together, and the Bengals. Can the Texans run the table, Jack? I mean, they're playing real good ball. They got a good offense, a good defense.
They're 4-7. If they run the table, they'll be 9-7. Is that good enough to still make the playoffs? I mean, you're asking a team to now win their last 5 games, and that's a tall order for anyone. The opportunity kind of passed them by. It's possible and all, but I would think not. But who knows? If they do, you have to look who's in the AFC over there. You got the Chiefs, you got the Steelers. It's a tough chore. I mean, the Texans basically should soon start thinking about next year as far as who's going to be their head coach. Because I don't think going forward,
they have a history of surging late and getting into the playoffs. If they get in the playoffs, anything can happen, Jack.
Well, Deshaun Watson is their quarterback.
Definitely.
Yeah, you never know.
In the NFC, Jack, in the East, the Giants are briefly in first, but with a high cost with Jones hurt, followed by the surging Redskins, the falling Eagles, and right now the dismal Cowboys, Jack.
The Giants disappointed me against the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals without Joe Burrow, without an offensive line, one of the worst teams in the NFL. And they barely squeaked out a win, and they were fortunate. They came close to losing that game, especially Joe Judge, this great special teams coach.
Yeah,
the ball is punted to Cincinnati. They return it from their 20 to midfield at the end of the game. And fortunately, the Giants got a sack and a fumble when Cincinnati was 1 first down away from getting in field goal range to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a win is a win, Jack. The only thing I'm worried about is next week they're playing Seattle with, Colt McCoy as quarterback. That will be
Colt McCoy's not that bad. Not that bad. No, Colt McCoy's a decent backup. And you got to look at this, Mac. Who's he replacing? He's not exactly replacing Russell Wilson. Okay?
Right.
He's replacing Daniel Jones. So what's the drop-off really going to be? Is the
drop-off
going to be That's
a ridiculous question, Jack.
Now that he's out, the Giants are suffering. Oh,
that's a ridiculous. That's just a ridiculous
statement. Daniel Jones is out. Oh, wow.
That's a ridiculous statement, Jack. That's just ridiculous. Comparing Colt McCoy to Daniel Jones is like comparing Hurst to Wentz. Well, maybe not.
Now you're on the Carson. When you tell me how great Carson Wentz is, right? The Eagles would be devastated if they lost Carson Wentz. That would be as bad as the Chiefs losing Patrick Mahomes.
That is
thing,
That
right?
is true, Jack. We do have the Philly sports guy backstage right now, and we'll bring him up in a few
I'm
minutes.
so disgusted. I'm not
I had
talking
to.
any
I had
Philly
to. Say,
stuff. I'm not
I
even
had to
talking to the Philly guy.
oh my God, Jack.
I'll talk. I'll warm up to him. I'm disgusted.
Oh
I'm
my.
watching
So,
that
Jack,
game and
let us
these
continue, Jack. In NFC West, the Seahawks at 8-3, followed by the Rams, who got beat by the 49ers, staying alive at 5-6, and the Cardinals are still in the mix, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams were the biggest disappointment of the week to me. The biggest, with the team they have, such a good all around team, and to lose to the Niners, who seem to be reeling. I mean, they disappointed me more than any other team.
Okay, so in NFC North, you got, of course, Green Bay at 8-3. The Vikings with an exciting win over Carolina. Sitting behind them, the falling Bears. It doesn't matter who their quarterback. And as we said, the Detroit Lions have a new head coach and GM, Jack.
They have an interim, I believe.
Right. NFC South at 9-2. The Saints, of course, won again. That's again without Breeze. The Bucs lost to the Chiefs, falling 2.5 back, followed by Atlanta and Carolina. And to me, Jack, everybody thought Tampa Bay was going to the Super Bowl this year. I ain't too sure about that.
No, I mean, I didn't pick them to go to the Super Bowl. I thought they would improve. They would be about 10-6. They would have improved with Jameis Winston as well. Tampa Bay, they have so many nice individual pieces, but you put them all together, it just isn't there. I mean, they're not using their running game the way they should. The play calling isn't what I want. And watching them play the Chiefs, Todd Bowles, just his defensive scheme, not doubling up on Tyreek Hill. It was awful. I mean, to watch. It took him so long to make various adjustments.
All right.
They better get it together. They're a little dysfunctional right
They
now.
sure are. So, speaking of dysfunctional, we're going to bring in the Philly sports guy right now. He's been sitting back there listening to us. We can't hear him, but I had to bring Philadelphia up just to kind of tug on him a little bit. How you doing, Jamie?
I have been better. I have been better. It was a rough Monday nights in total.
Yeah. Well, the Eagle fans deserve a lot of the blame. I mean, I'm disgusted to hear that Doug Peterson's job could be in jeopardy. There's talk he could actually get fired before the year's out. That's ridiculous. 3 years ago, he delivered a Super Bowl winner to the city of Philadelphia. I mean, isn't there a sense of loyalty?
So, when has that changed from what have you done for me lately? So, I mean, lately, it's been such dysfunction in this season in total. It seems like that, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing across the board between the very stagnant offense to the haphazard decent defense. Like the defense showed up on Monday, but it's, not every week is it doing exactly the same thing.
Well, the defense that was an inspired effort by the defense. I mean, they played hard. They were into it. You got to give them a lot of credit, the Eagle defense.
Absolutely. And it's like, Russell Wilson's going to get his. DK Metcalf, as many yards as he got, he never got into the end zone. So, I mean, really, Slay did what he was supposed to do with that. It just became it was very frustrating watching that game. I mean, the first play, they go offside, so it's 1st and 5, and then we pass, punt. Right. Like, really, we didn't even try to run the ball. We didn't, and then we tried to run the ball, and I felt like even the run plays where it was meant to not work so that we could go back to the pass.
Well, Jamie, they fell behind 14-0. So right off the rip, you guys were behind the 8 ball. You fell short. I mean, you had that one Hail Mary pass that worked out for you guys. But it seems to me, you're still alive in the division. The Giants are without Jones this week against Seattle. Washington still has a tough schedule. Dallas looks like, they don't even look interested anymore. So you still got a chance. I mean, it's not like you guys are out of it by any means, especially in the NFC least there. So I believe that. I don't know what's going on with Wentz this year. I don't know, but everybody's had injuries. Everybody has overcome the injuries. It seems to me that it almost seems that that your head coach wants out of Philly to me. I mean, I don't understand what's changed from last year to this year. I really don't, Jamie.
Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs. Playoffs. I feel like that once we lost Frank Reich, and I don't give the entire Super Bowl to Frank Reich because it was an entire organizational Super Bowl win. So when we lost him, I think a lot of the originality left. And in 2018, we were able to kind of get it back when Wentz went out and Foles, because they went back to like the old school offense that worked led the last playoff. So during that playoff run in 2017, it started again in 2018. They just went back and revisited that entire playbook. In 2019, it was a little different because they started to throw in people that nobody had any film on. So because of that, in those last 4 games, they were able to win and they were able to get into the playoffs. This year, everybody's got film on everything that we're doing, and it is just a lethargic-looking offense where it's like everything he's trying isn't working. And I'm tired of watching Carson Wentz go back 45 times, 50 times a game. I mean, they ran the ball 14 times last game, 6 of which were run by Carson Wentz. So that means he went back to pass and then went and ran the ball. So that means 9 plays out of 50 and 51 plays were passed, 9 plays were run, scripted that way. Yeah. Is that happening from the coach? Is that Carson calling the play on the field and doing that, doing all of those things? It's because it's such bad play. And there's not everybody's on the right page. I mean, they blamed that one screen on Boston Scott when really that was a Rager screen and he ran the wrong route. So there's so many different things. And then the poor play calling, just not managing the game. With 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter and you're on your side of the 50, I felt that you should punt the ball there. And they never really even mentioned it. It wasn't even talked about in the media at all. But it's like we're 17-9 at this point, and why give them the ball on your side of the 50 when all they have to do is move 20 yards and kick a field goal and make it a 2-score game? Why not play the field position game then? And they didn't do it, and they scored the field goal, and now we're trying to go and we're trying to race to score two scores. And all right, so now we're 4th and 4 on the 25-yard line, and we're going to go for it instead of go for the field goal to get it back to a 1-score game. Again, those are the types of games and things that happen that when you're mismanaging the game, that's what makes the talk about, hey, is he not trying to be here anymore? Is he really on the hot seat, and could he get fired? Those are bad decisions, and they rest solely on the head coach. However, I'm beginning to think more and more that there's some more dysfunction even higher up than that.
No one mentions this, but is the absence of Malcolm Jenkins having gone to the Saints, is there a void in leadership with him leaving? Because if Malcolm Jenkins was there, he was a big presence, okay, a loud voice. Would that have been helpful?
So I maybe on the defensive side for different times, but like I said, the defense played very inspired on Monday night. Yeah. I wish they would have brought that inspiration a couple of weeks ago when they were letting up 31 points against the Ravens and they couldn't get off the field against certain teams. It seemed like that they had this game very much earmarked where the offense did not.
And I noticed a certain frustration in Wentz. When he was running with the ball, quarterbacks are trained to hit the deck, at the appropriate time. He held on to the ball. He was trying to will his way for extra yards, which was, to me, a sign of frustration.
I agree. I feel like that he was trying to bowl over people.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you like that. It shows a lot of heart that, hey, listen, that this guy doesn't want to lose. He doesn't like what's happening out there. I mean, there were certain plays out there that he had less than 2 seconds to drop back and throw the ball. And at what point do you start to put the play calling in place so that you're all right? If they're going to be coming in and they're going to get in that fast, why don't we get rid of the ball faster? How come we don't do those 5 yard slants? That seems to beat our defense the entire time. I mean, I was happy that we were able to get around that. We got beat on that their first third down, and then after that, he had that blocked for the rest of the game, and that's why Russell Wilson got sacked a couple of times because that slant wasn't there. So I was happy to see some of the adjustments being made by Schwartz, which has not been something that he's been able to do really well previous to last week, or previous to Monday.
I think Jamie, you brought up a great point with Wright leaving. Right, you see what he's done with the Baltimore Colts right now.
Indianapolis.
I'm going to call Baltimore for the but. No, but what he's done with the Colts with the running game and using the play action to protect an older quarterback and Rivers has been phenomenal, and their defense is playing lights out too. So, I mean, you brought up a great point, with Wright leaving. And, it looks to me at overall game management that for some reason your head coach is not in the game. I don't know. You got a decent defense. The Eagles have always had a strong defense. But the offense, there was a writer that we can't work for Philly. I'm trying to remember that Jack brought him on. His name was Joe.
Oh, Joe Santalaquito.
He did a big article on Wentz, and he got a lot of death threats from doing that in Philly area. I don't know if you remember that or not, Jamie. But he said that in his article that Wentz was very selfish and it was all about him and not about the team. Now, if that's true, combined with the with the coaching right now, you guys got Green Bay coming up next week, and I don't know what to say. I mean, Rodgers is going to make you pay for any mistake you make. You guys are got to have to control the clock. That this next week you're going to have to and keep Green Bay off the field. Their defense isn't that good, so. What do you think about Green Bay upcoming? Do you think it's that the Eagles finally start trying to make a commitment to the run?
No, I wish I could say that they were going to, but I don't believe that they're going to. And that's the frustrating part of this is that you can't even. I don't even understand when they try to do a play action pass. Why you even bother trying to fake it off to the running back, because nobody buys it. Nobody buys it. They're going after Wentz anyways. And it's, like I said, when you only run the ball 9 times out of 60 plays, I mean, their first 15 plays are scripted, and, well, that was 5 3-and-outs. Right. So it's like, because they're not scripting punts, so I can't imagine that they said, hey, well, we're
look at
3-and-outs, so we should punt this ball. It's a lot faster. So it's been, I'm not exactly sure what's happening. And to go back with whether you think that it's Carson being very selfish, that's been floating around a little bit lately, where the pictures don't lie. You're always seeing Hurts next to Doug, and he's going over all the plays and talking to Doug throughout the entire game. And you always see Carson far away. He's always on the bench. He's kind of doing his own thing. He's not very communicating with Doug or even anybody in the offense. And maybe that is speaking some volume, where when Foles was here, Foles was very engaging to the offense. Even while he was the backup, he was very involved, and he was the bridge between Carson Wentz and the offense. And so when he left and we got hurt at the Rams game, Foles was able to jump in, and he had the camaraderie with the team. There's a thing that that we talk about when I play softball, is that a team that drinks together wins together. And there's some of that happening here. I believe that the fact that there is this disconnect between the quarterback and the offense relates on the field, and that's starting to get frustrating.
You see, Ron Jaworski mentioned about a day or so ago that the reason Jalen Hurts might not be playing is that the coaching staff just flat out doesn't have faith in him that he can get the job done. Okay, now my feeling is, why was he drafted so high? Unless he could be put in this position to play, why did they draft him? I don't want to hear because they could run packages with him. You don't draft a guy in the second round for that, even though Denver did it with Tebow. And it actually did work out, through a big string of luck for 1 year. But what's the sense in drafting Jalen Hurts as high as they did if they're so reluctant to use him?
Well, I'm going to go backwards a little bit to what you were saying there, is that the coaching staff doesn't have faith in him. Well, are they watching what's going on in the field? I mean, I've been a very big Carson Wentz fan and a very big supporter of him. And I feel that this team can only go as far as Carson Wentz can go. However, I do believe that there are times when you have to sit back and look at the forest for the trees. And that's that you can only do that when you're on the bench watching. And I don't care whether they have faith in him or not anymore. It's their duty to try to win games. So if even though they don't think that he can do it, you got to almost give him a shot now, just because. Yeah. I mean, we are still in it. Are we playing for the draft? I mean, I wore my draft shirt today because I know a lot of Philadelphia fans are thinking about tanking. And I'm not a tanking guy. I can't, I have to play to win. I want my teams to play to win.
The Jets won't let you pass them. No way. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that quarterback don't want to go to the Jets, which then, I mentioned this yesterday. I'm like, hey, so they draft that quarterback. He doesn't want to go to the Jets. Well, maybe it's a swap and trade. Maybe they trade Wentz over to the Jets and we get that first-round pick, and then we give up our
why didn't you mention Sam Darnold? You're talking about the first-round pick.
Yeah, I'm not a Sam Darnold fan. Come on now, let's go. We're trying to talk. We're trying to talk real football here.
Listen, I think we're talking fantasy when you're talking about getting that first-round pick from the Jets. But there is. I really think, Jamie, that from what I understand, and like I said, we had that reporter on from Philly Voice, Joe Santaquinto. I think I'm saying it right.
Santaquinto.
Right. He was on, and this article was written 2 years ago. And if that is true, that Wentz has that big of an ego, and you need a big ego to play football, no doubt about it, especially professional football. And the team's starting to fall apart a little bit. They want to, draft a quarterback. Do you think this kind of affects him this year? Do you think he's pressing? Do you think he's trying to make too many plays? Do you think he's looking at the Eagles drafting Hurst? What are you doing? Give me some weapons. So do you think he's out there maybe trying to do too much this year?
Well, I mean, that's been a little bit of the talk in terms of wearing the cape. Sometimes you don't have to wear the cape. I mean, even Doug Peterson said that. I think of ego, excuse me, and I think of Joe Burrows, and Joe Burrows has got a reputation to having this monster ego, but that ego is looked at as swagger rather than overconfidence and shunning his team away. That his confidence becomes leadership. And I feel like that's not happening with Wentz. And I feel like that may have started with the Alshon Jeffrey rumor to that media reporter a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago, where he kind of let something leak in. It all went back to Alshon, and it's kind of started for there, where the team actually started to listen to him rather than listen to Wentz and listen to the coaching staff. And that this is starting to manifest in a bigger way. That, like I said, there's something else happening here. There's something else that's going on that we're not being privy to. And the fact that somebody wrote about this 2 years ago kind of speaks to the fact that, hey, then it maybe wasn't such a big deal because the confidence was leadership. Now the confidence is cockiness. And when you're cocky and you don't have any help around you, and you feel like you don't have any help around you, you have no choice but to try to do it on your own. And that's why he's wearing the Superman cape. That's why he's trying to bowl people over. That's why he's waiting and holding the ball for an extra second or two to wait to see if somebody can get open and go long. and it's just he's missing throws. He has bad reads. He seems to be throwing off of his back foot. It seemed like 2 or 3 passes specifically were underthrown when the receiver or the tight end was open, and all he had to do was lead him a little bit better. And it just seems that some of the mechanics are starting to fail. Everything's starting to fail because I don't think he trusts anything on the field anymore. And it's
is
showing
this a
through.
playing issue or a coaching issue? I mean,
Both.
we
Both. I think
what
you have to get
obvious,
coached to be put in the right position,
right,
and they're not coaching him in the right position.
Yeah.
And because of that, he's not playing in the right position.
Well, let's get back to the next week's game, because that's what's happening now. Whatever happened is done with, and they got to kind of turn the page. Again, Rodgers is just as good, if not better, than Russell Wilson. The Packers got a lot better running game than Seattle has. Their defense is in question. What do the Eagles have to do to beat the Packers, Jamie?
There has been some type of mystique around the Eagles and the Packers. And for some reason, we have had a little bit of the Packers number. Similar to how Seattle has had our number, we have beaten the Packers a good amount of times over the last few years. And going all the way back to 4th and 26, I believe the Packers have only beaten us like one time since then. And that was done by Rodgers. To be honest, I think Rodgers is going to have a really big chip on his shoulder, that he remembers last year on Thursday night getting beat and getting embarrassed in Green Bay, against a team that wasn't supposed to be doing really well. And to have all of that come out, like this is like a revenge game for him. We have to have these 15 play drives. We have to hold the ball. We're going to have to run the ball. And I don't know that the coaching staff is willing to make that type of commitment. I think that this is, I hate to say it, but I almost feel like that it's like a death march. And I don't know that they can turn things around so dramatically between Monday and Sunday that they're going to be able to compete against a team that's top, obviously second in the NFC, and then come back the following week to play against a team that's first in the NFC. You know what I mean? So I don't know that they're going to have the type of game plan put together.
You know what no one ever talks about? Even though the players supposedly give 100% each game, it's vastly different playing on a Monday night as opposed to a Sunday afternoon. On Monday night, all your peers are watching you. The whole country is watching you. You have no competition with other games going on. So I think that might reflect in the effort a little bit. As far as the Packers go, to me, it's a winnable game for the Eagles. The Packers have been on cruise control. And a couple of weeks ago in Green Bay, they barely got by the Jacksonville Jaguars, one of the worst teams in football. And if you use the logic that the Eagles are clearly better than the Jaguars, if you want to use that logic, then they have a shot at winning this game.
Well, I would hope so, but the problem is that as we think about that, I mean, the Jaguars are only 1 or 2 picks up on us in the draft right now. So when it comes down to it, they got the 4th, we have the 6th pick in the draft.
I think the Jaguars have only 1 win, so they might have the 2nd pick.
That might even be. So we're not too far away from each other when we're doing the power rankings and that. So I like I said, there is some type of mystique that the Eagles seem to just bring it up when they play against the Packers. I'd love to be able to see it. It would be a surprise for everybody, especially now that Daniel Jones is out. I disagree with you, Mac or Jack on that one, where McCoy is, like Jones is definitely a little bit better than McCoy.
It's not such a big drop off.
No.
I don't think it's a crazy
Jack,
drop
let's
off.
not do this again, Jack.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we have our first Wednesday football game, I think, in history, the Steelers and the Ravens. How big is the rivalry out there in Pennsylvania? I mean, between the Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are you like jealous of the Pittsburgh's history, the Eagle fans, or is it's just because you're from the same state, or do the Pittsburgh Steeler fans talk a lot of trash to you guys? out there?
Oh, I have tons of Pittsburgh hate. I get tons of Pittsburgh hate. And you know what? It's so funny because I don't think Eagles fans really play the Steelers any mind, and I feel like most of the people from Pittsburgh have Philly envy.
Yeah.
And it really stems for and it stems back not to football. It actually stems back to hockey. So it goes back that the Pittsburgh people like their Steelers. They love their Penguins and they hate the Flyers. And when I was out in Pittsburgh, I would hear a lot of the time that they would hate the Eagles, not because they had this rivalry with the Eagles. It's because Philadelphia, the Flyers play in Philadelphia, and so do the Eagles, and that's the reason. And I would hear that more frequently than not. So I feel that with the Steelers doing so well, it the Steelers fans love to yap 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 yap, and rightly so. Hey, it's hard to go 10-0, and you are having your schedule changed all of the time about hey, listen, the Ravens again screwing up this the Steelers season in terms of rescheduling games. And they used to have Wednesday games. There hasn't been any Wednesday games since the start of the Super Bowl era, when they made that thing in Congress, where Congress says, hey, you can't play football games from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then they switched it up to Thursday night games again recently. But there used to be Wednesday games back in the day, so it's been interesting to kind of see how this happens. And you know what? I think the Steelers are just rolling with it. I think that they are all on the same page, and they all are pulling in the same direction. And when you see a football team doing that, similar to the Chiefs, similar to like these teams that are doing really well, like even the Saints without Drew Brees, they haven't missed a beat. And when you see those teams pulling all in the same direction, it doesn't matter who you're playing and when you're playing. It's anytime, anywhere, to quote even a Flyer saying, that we can go out and we're going to beat any team. And we're not going to let that it's Wednesday afternoon game or Friday night, or you're going to move us from Monday to we're Thursday to Monday to Wednesday. Who cares? I don't care when we have to play. We're coming for you, and we're going to win that game. And that has a lot to do with the coaching staff and then the personnel around, because you have to be very astute to what's going on with your team to be able to make sure that everybody is still moving in the same direction and pulling in the right direction.
Jamie, any Philadelphia Philly news? Real Muto, is he going to re-sign by any chance with the Phillies? Is he as good as gone?
I am so frustrated with the Phillies in general. I am unhappy with ownership. It is it's time for this ownership to sell this team. They said, hey, last year they were going to spend stupid money. This year they ain't spending any money. They just laid off a whole bunch of people. And I can't stand it when billionaires cry poor. And I understand that this is a group, and the Phillies are a business entity, and they are going to be making money. And they made tons of money from 2007 to 2012, when they had the longest streak of games that were sold out. And nobody said anything. Nobody cried about that. When saying, oh, everybody's making lots of money. We weren't able to have fans in the stands, and the Phillies had the most amount of fans outside the stadium every game. Because they had the Philly pandemics, and they would travel with the team. They would go and do these things. So, to tell your fan base that you are not going to spend money, that Real Muto is going to go somewhere else. Now, I think he's asking for a lot of money, and I don't think he's going to get that type of money. But I think that when he signs somewhere else, that it's going to be a big exodus of the Philadelphia Philly fans, starting with our guy out in left field or right field. You know what I mean? I think that Harper is going to be the most angry and the most vocal, because he's stuck here for another 11 years. And he's now feeling like that his ownership isn't taking part in what's going on. And they're not trying to put a winning team on the field. And because of that, I mean, just the GM debacle. We weren't going to have a GM. The president, McPhail, I mean, they talked about him winning 3 World Series. It's been 30 years since he's got a World Series ring, and they're still touting the fact that he's able, he's got this resume. Well, that resume is old and dusted, and it's time to start to change with the times. You have to be able to see what's going on with everything. And the thing is I think that they listen to sports talk radio. So they had to start to interview people to talk about the GM position, because I think they were going to leave it vacant because they still had to pay. They still have to pay for those positions, and because they're losing money, that's the hard part. They're like, okay, whoa, you know what I mean? We're gonna, I guess we got to appease the fans somehow, some way. So I'm just so unhappy with the way that organization is run right now. That I'm hoping that they can start to mend the bridge that they are burning, or get the fire trucks out to stop the blaze. But it is spiraling out of control, and it seems like that with as good of things that the Flyers could really stand pat a little bit, because they actually made a good playoff run, even though it ended with the Islanders and it ended a little premature. And you have the Sixers that are doing all of these fantastic things with the new president and getting all the different players. There's a renewed energy with that team, and the Eagles and the Phillies. The Eagles and the Phillies are really starting to.
So, Jamie, you got some good things happening in Philadelphia. Don't lose hope in the Eagles yet. The Phillies got a heck of a manager, and I think the 76ers and the Flyers will do well this year. So we got to let you go because we got to push out to our next guest coming up soon. But it's great having you on as always, Jamie, and we appreciate you coming in Wednesday and keeping us up to date with the Philly news, and don't lose hope, my friend. Don't lose hope.
I can't stop, won't stop. I'm still a fan. I'm still going to be rooting for my Birds to win every game, and yelling and screaming and carrying on. So you'll see me just as crazy as before, even when they're losing.
There you go. Have a great day. Enjoy the game today. If you watch it, Jamie, you have a great day, my friend.
All right, thank you, guys. Have a good day.
You too.
So there you go. The Philly sports guy, Jamie would call him Pags because I cannot pronounce that name.
He's normal when he comes on our show. On his show, he's a little bit crazy. I have a hard time tolerating him when I watch him on his show. But I love him when he's on our show.
Well,
he really makes great points.
Different strokes for different folks, Jeff. So
exactly. He's great on our show.
Yes, he is. So we're going to go ahead and take our official timeout. We'll be coming up on the other side, guys, with the author of the Phil Rizzuto biography. So if you like the Yankees or if you just love baseball, he'll be on and he'll be giving us some insight into what the book was about and the Yankees during that time, and it should be really fun to have him on. We'll be right back after this, folks.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma.
I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting the stew and telling me what you think?
Mm.
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Right.
Good morning and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Show. We're going to go ahead and take that off the screen so you can see Jack's lovely face. How you doing? Jack is back. We just had our guest, the Philly sports guy on. We got Dan Hirschburg back studio. He'll be coming on in a moment. But first, Jack, I want to hit you with the trivia question that I've been waiting to give you real quick here. And it's about football, Jack. So who are the 4 football teams that never made the Super Bowl, Jack?
Oh, I'll have to go down to that. I mean, the Detroit Lions were never there.
Right.
The Cleveland Browns were never there.
Correct.
The Jacksonville Jaguars were never there.
That's 3, my friend. You're
And
rolling.
I'll have to just one second. Just give me a moment. Give me a moment. And the Houston Texans were never there.
That's correct, Jack. You got all 4.
Yeah.
Right. So,
You know what I
Jack,
was doing? I was kind of looking at the NFL schedule,
right?
actually, because, the last name had to just clip it, get into my head. And when I
Definitely.
saw Houston was scheduled to play this week against the Indianapolis Colts, it immediately clicked in.
Well, there you
Texans
go.
were never there. Yeah.
So, Jack, we have an old friend of yours backstage right now, ready to bring him on. He's the author who wrote a biography on Phil Rizzuto called A Yankee Tradition, from years in the minors all the way up through his Hall of Fame career. And, of course, we all know that he was a famous broadcaster for the Yankees. So let's bring it in. How you doing,
Hey, Dan.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
You haven't
Good.
aged much. You look the same, Dan, except your hair's a little more gray than before.
Well,
I think I
yeah,
had a lot of hair before.
I was going to say, where's your hair?
Well, I may have shaved my head.
Good for you.
I
Hey, Dan.
might not have. I might have lost it naturally. Yeah.
Hey, Dan, first, let me welcome you to the show. We're very happy to have you on. I'm related by marriage to the Rizzuto family. My aunt married into the Rizzuto family. And as my cousin contacted me when I put the promotion of having you on the show, on the book cover that I shared, it spelled Rizzuto to Rizzuto, and I wondered if you were aware of that. And
actually, that's something I'm investigating with Amazon. I think someone has basically ripped off the book and I've noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, well, he just wanted me to ask if you did that on purpose, if there was a reason behind it.
No.
And I said,
Yeah, no, somebody illegally, took the book and is doing whatever. So,
Dan's a top journalist. He would never make a mistake like that. And if he did, he would notice it in a matter of seconds and correct
Definitely.
it.
that's right.
Definitely. So
That's
Dan,
right. And by the way, your note here about the book, Rizzuto, you have 2 T's. Should
right.
be 1.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. So
There you
there we
go.
go. So my assistant producer messed that up too. So it should be 1
There you
T.
go.
Yeah, well,
Still to blame.
he makes a lot more mistakes than his assistant producer.
Yes,
I could tell you
yes,
that.
do.
Mac
Yes,
makes a lot more mistakes.
very cool. So let's get to the book, Dan. Of course, it starts out in the minors, where he was a great in the minors. Is it fair to say that Phil was one of the greatest fielding shortstops ever in the history of baseball?
Well, he's certainly, greatest is the, can be thrown any way you want it, but certainly he was one of the most consistent shortstops of all time. I would say that. Great, you have the Ozzie Smiths of the world. It's a little bit different. So, but he was definitely an extremely consistent fielding shortstop.
The big debate always used to be who was better, Rizzuto or Pee Wee Reese.
Yeah.
And they were pretty similar in statistics in certain ways. I mean, Reese had more power, but I don't know how much that really counted. And Rizzuto was maybe a tad better defensively. I mean, one thing about Rizzuto, if the bunt's kind of like a lost art, the sacrifice bunt. And Rizzuto was considered by many to be the greatest bunt in history, amazing bat control. In fact, Billy Martin used Rizzuto to help coach some of his players because when he played alongside Rizzuto, he always used to rave what a great bunter he was.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Phil. He was, to be honest, he wasn't the greatest at anything, but he was very consistent in many ways, and he did all the small things, the small ball stuff, and he knew where he stood in the lineup. He wasn't supposed to be the power hitter. He was, shake up the pitchers a little bit on the baseline. I mean, squeeze play here and there. So that was his role, and he knew it, and he really didn't try to do anything that he wasn't supposed to do, and he didn't need to on those teams.
Yeah, there was a story about Phil was going to put on a squeeze with Joe DiMaggio. He was on third. Lemon was pitching, and DiMaggio broke early. Lemon saw him breaking early, so he threw the ball high. Rizzuto actually jumped up in the air to get the bat on the ball and put it down the first baseline. And the squeeze worked, and Stengel calls it the greatest play he ever saw. So. That's incredible for a man to jump up in the air to bunt the ball on the squeeze play. So, yeah, he was a great bunter. Talk about the players he played around. I mean, with all those world championships a little bit, Dan.
Well, he played with DiMaggio. He played with Mantle. He played with Whitey Ford, Billy Martin. I mean, he played with some really outstanding ball players and against some outstanding ball players. So, but he was the type that, again, was never looking for the glory and did his part. And the DiMaggios and the Mantles and those guys, the Fords, they were the headliners.
Something Michael Kay said about Phil Rizzuto that stood out to me. When Phil Rizzuto got cut from the Yankees, Casey Stengel did it not exactly in the gentlest of ways. He said to Rizzuto, well, someone has to get cut from the team. Who do you suggest? Something along those lines. And Rizzuto didn't know what he meant. And he was told it was him a moment later. But when Rizzuto got cut, he had bad feelings, but he kept them to himself. He didn't badmouth anyone. And not long after, he was offered the Yankee broadcasting position, in which he became more iconic maybe as a broadcaster than he was as a ball player. And had he badmouthed someone on the way out the door, maybe he doesn't get that position as a broadcaster for the Yankees. and we would just be looking at Phil Rizzuto as another very good player rather than the iconic Phil Rizzuto.
Yeah, well, when the end came, I mean, the last couple of years, he really was a part-time player and not really effective for the most part. And you're right, Stengel called him in and said, "Gee, should I cut this guy? Should I cut that guy?" And Rizzuto's like, "No, you got to keep him. No, you got to keep him." And then it's like, "Yeah, you're right." Then it dawned on Phil, "Wait a minute, I'm the odd guy out. I got the short straw here, whether I want it or not."
Max tried that with me to bring someone else in with the show, but I didn't. Yeah, I held the line. Yeah.
Well, Rizzuto was the MVP in 1950. He was in the top 5 in stealing bases 7 times, and he had a great World Series against the Cardinals with his 381 average. So when the moments did get big, Rizzuto did step up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, he did his part, and he stepped to the forefront when it needed. But generally speaking, he didn't need to be the guy all the time. And if you think about it, a World Series, somebody gets hot once in a while that you at least expect it. Look at the Tampa Bay team and the guy who came up from Mexico. I mean, or Cuba. But anyway, he's very consistent.
Now, Dan, you're writing stories on old-time baseball players now. I think you were telling me the other day, like Mike Shannon. It's like that. Tell us a little about what you're doing.
Yeah, so, I've been doing some stuff for Baseball Digest, and then there's a publication in Florida that I do a monthly column, and it focuses more on, former players and not recently retired guys that, I try to find guys from the 60s and 70s that have interesting stories, 80s or 90s, but not the guy who, retired last year. And it's out of Tampa Bay, that area. So it focuses on guys that either played there, trained there, because in that area, St. Pete, the Yankees, the Mets, the Cardinals, a lot of different people train there. So that's where Mike Shannon comes in. And, the old timers are great to talk to. I mean, I'm not necessarily doing stories on guys that are frontline guys, and they love to talk. I mean, the story I did for Baseball Digest focused on double headers, and kind of up until this year, when it's been a crazy year, it was like almost a rarity to have a schedule.
Yeah.
So it highlights different double headers over the years that were really, had something unique to them. But, I'm talking to guys like Stan Bonson and, different guys like that, and just kind of
Dan Bonson, I remember he was traded to the White Sox for a third baseman named Rich McKinney. Ralph Houck, the manager, was so high on Rich McKinney, and he turned out to be a dud. And in this day and age, I can't imagine a team giving up a frontline starting pitcher for a third baseman, unless the third baseman is like someone like a Mike Schmidt. It just wouldn't happen. But in those days, it did.
Yep. So anyway, that's what I've been up to. Mike, and it's funny, you find out stories that some of these guys, I try to find a unique piece to it. And like with Mike Shannon, just a quick sidebar here. The guy retired in 1970. Well, he retired because he had a near dead experience. It was discovered he had a bad kidney and in spring training just by accident, what a typical thing. And he was on the deathbed that spring training, and then came back later in the year, but had nothing left. And but he's actually been, speaking of long-term broadcasters, he's been with the Cardinals now for 50 years. So that's hard to play as a broadcaster.
He had a great arm, as I remember. Great arm. Outstanding defensive player.
What's the biggest, talking to that and covering the old timers, writing books on Rizzuto and doing your column? What do you see the biggest difference, Dan, in the players of that era compared to the players of this era?
You mean in terms of personalities or the way
Personality, the way they approach the game, just in general. I mean, the biggest difference is, from going from hitting home runs, coming away from small ball a little bit, how the money affects them, maybe social media, where the coverage is, instant and all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as far as personalities go, I mean, to be honest, I don't really speak with too many players that are in the leagues now, so it's the former stuff. But those guys are all, they're happy to talk. They want to talk about things. I guess, it's a way for them to remember things. And in some cases, gee, really? I did that back in 1970? Really? So it's kind of funny that way. But so personality-wise, but I think in general, players back then were a little more friendly to the fans and that sort of thing. Now, as far as how they approach the game, I mean, years ago, it was, it wasn't strikeout or home run. There was a lot in between. And the same thing with pitchers, obviously. I mean, it was common for pitchers to throw 120 120 pitches. Now, if they're at 20 pitches, the red flag is up already. Oh God, 20 pitches in one inning. This, is he going to last fifth? So, I mean, that's obviously the biggest thing. And, there's so many strikeouts in the game today. You talk about the home runs, but strikeouts are ridiculous. I mean, I went to a game. I was in Florida last year, Tampa against, I forget who it was, Detroit. There were, between the two teams, 34 strikeouts. Yeah. I mean, that's ridiculous.
A lot.
That's absurd. Yeah. So, clearly that's the biggest thing.
Mac, I first met Dan in the late 1980s through the sport of boxing. We became friends. Then we kind of fell out of touch for no particular reason. I'm glad we're in touch again, and, hopefully we'll remain in touch. But I never really spoke baseball with him in detail at the time because we were both reporting on the sport of boxing. How do you compare dealing with baseball players as opposed to boxers? Because boxers, for the most part, are pretty easygoing, easy access to them for the most part. Is the access to baseball players much more difficult?
Well, first of all, with boxers, they don't really, except for a few, they don't get as much attention really from the media. So, and if you're interviewing maybe not the top guy, but the next guy, they want to talk. They're happy to talk. Very few of them did not want to talk. Let's put it that way. And I mean, I love talking to boxers because just the whole personality and way of thinking and their lifestyles, and it just made it very exciting. Baseball players, the old timers, and maybe back then they weren't as open with the media, but they've been out of touch with the media for a while, and they love to talk. I mean, I talked to Sam McDowell, and boy,
Sudden Sam McDowell.
Long conversation, and it was just great. And we went from double headers, and we were talking about all sorts of stuff that
Now he was with the Indians, then the Yankees. I'm not sure about the other teams. Do you know why he was called Sudden Sam McDowell? I don't know. I know that was his nickname, Sudden Sam McDowell.
No, I think it's because it's the fastball.
Fastball.
You know something I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't really have the radar gun then, but he threw hard.
Well, Dan, you bring up a great point as far as with the fans. I mean, I've heard stories from my father on that where the Brooklyn Dodgers actually, rode the subway with the fans from the stadium, and they were pretty much, they were, as you said, they were touchable. As today, it's very hard to actually for fans to get to know the players besides what you read. And I agree with you too as far as the home runs and strikeouts. I mean, I think that some of the smaller market teams, such as what Billy Martin did and some of the other managers did with small ball, putting pressure on the defense, the pitcher, the catcher. and stealing and doing the hit and runs and double steals, all that stuff. I don't know why that's not brought back, especially when you're playing against teams like the Dodgers, like the Yankees, that have the home run hitters and all that power and some of the top line pitchers. I don't understand why these teams that are a little bit secondary don't use that small ball approach.
Well, yeah, it's a great mystery, and it's all all the analytics, and you can do what you want with that, and you can say, yeah, they're good, they're not good, but for the most part, you're right. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I watch a game and it's like, dude, they've got the shift on. Everybody's bunt the ball down the third base line. Do you have to hit a home run in this situation? I mean, it's like, go to the opposite field. I don't even know if they really teach that, anywhere in the minor leagues or whatever at this point. But to me, it's like so logical. You don't have to hit a 2-run home run. You can bunt the ball down the left side, you're on base, and then the next time you're up, they're going to be a little more cautious. I mean, I don't understand why. To me, that would be you're shaking up things a little bit.
Well, one of the reasons the Yankees are anxious to sign DJ LeMayo is because he can hit the ball, all over the field. You can't play a shift on him. He'll take advantage and go the other way.
Yep. But yeah, and look, he led the league in hitting. I mean,
they don't. Yeah, they don't slap the ball like the Rod Carews and some of the other great hitters that they used to. As you're saying, it seems like everyone. It doesn't matter how big they are, swinging for the fences. And which brings us back to Phil Rizzuto and players like that who wanted to get on base, wanted to stir things up. And when you're a pitcher, Dan, and all you got to worry about is that one hitter, and you don't have to worry about somebody stealing or double stealing, or it makes your job a whole lot easier too. So I don't get it. And I know analytics is in the launching point, and all this stuff is in with baseball today, and that even takes away from the managers, Dan, where you have the GMs, telling the managers who's in the lineup and situations, and to me that's just crazy, Dan.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. It doesn't leave, it doesn't leave in general, the whole thing doesn't leave it open for a manager to make any gut decisions anymore. Very often, very few times. I mean, and look at Kevin Cash. I mean, to me, he's a great manager, but boy, that was a horrible, horrible decision.
Thank you.
And, just as a point of note on that, interestingly, I have a place in Florida, and I love reading about Florida. So I actually have a online subscription to the Tampa Bay Times, with great newspaper. And I was reading up, and boy, they were the day before or the day of. They were like, "Oh, Snell is on." The coaches are like, he is zeroed in, and even Cash is saying he's ready, and blah, all this stuff. The guy goes in there, he's pitching, he's unstoppable, and then all of a sudden you pull him. It made no sense. I mean,
I think the mind was made up beforehand. That's what he was going to do, no matter what. Yeah, and they just didn't adjust in mid-game. Maybe he figured Kevin Cash, let's get him out while we're ahead. I agree, it was a bad move. It was a bad move, and managers never make decisions, it seems, from the gut anymore, or what exactly is transpiring. Their mind seems to be made up beforehand based on analytics.
Yeah, well, interestingly, I was talking to Larry Boa, who story I just did for that paper, and we were talking about that whole thing, and he said, the analytics and all this stuff, it's all good. He said, but the World Series is to be open to doing things a little differently if the gut tells you to do it. You can't just do it straight down the line.
Definitely did. I mean, when they pulled him out, the Dodgers batters were celebrating when they pulled him out. He was dominating them. So it was crazy. I didn't get it at all. And to me, if a manager is going to let analytics, run the team for you, then he might as well not even be there, because one of his jobs is to know what's going on in the game and what's hot and what's not, and who we should go with. I mean, then why even have a manager?
He's a real good manager, though, Kevin Cash. Just a bad move. That shouldn't define him, that bad move. But unfortunately, that might haunt him for a while.
I agree. He deserved to be manager of the year. What he does with that team, with the budget they have, is phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with what he's done, but that one call, is going to haunt them for a while.
Yeah.
So that'll be the time we have with Dan. Unless you got something else for him, Jack?
No, that's basically it. Well, we'll be in touch, Dan. I'm glad we got, you got in contact with me. Very happy about that. And we'll be in touch again. And anytime you want to come on the show, anything in particular, of one of the ball players you interview, if you feel that it would be good for them to get their name out a little more, and you could help them out by recommending them to us to come on the show, we would be delighted to have these old-time ball players on, so they could have an outlet on our show here as well.
Definitely. Yep. So, Dan, thank you. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
I was going to say, I just wanted to tell you, so I did the book, and afterwards, it was very positive, feedback and stuff, except I got a really nasty letter from some guy in Jersey City.
Oh.
And he goes, how dare you write a book about that loan sharking, whatever he said. It was like, because he worked for the money store afterwards. So I guess this guy got a bad deal from the money.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
I definitely remember that. So, Dan, again, thank you for coming in. We appreciate having you on. And have a great day. You going to watch the football game today, Dan? Are you a football fan too?
Yeah, I'm not going to kill myself to get to the TV, but from there it starts at 3:30, which is
yes, it does.
Yeah.
After
keep track now with COVID.
It's every day. It's every day. Thanks again, Dan. Pleasure having you.
Okay, great day. Stay safe.
Author.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So there you go, Jack. Dan Hirschburg with some insight on some of the old.
I hadn't spoken to Dan. The last time I saw Dan, we actually got together in Atlantic City over there for the weekend. That was for the James Tony Hasim Rockman fight. I'm just off the top of my head. I guess that was somewhere around 1995 or thereabouts.
Right.
And I haven't, for whatever reason, we just kind of fell out of touch. We'd been good friends. Our families even went away for a weekend together.
Oh, very
for whatever reason, sometimes people fall out of touch. No particular reason, but I hadn't seen him in all those years. So when I said, Dan, your hair looks just a little gray. Dan looks great. After a few minutes, he looks the same as he did years ago. He's hardly aged. But he kind of wondered. It's hard to believe I had a lot of hair on my head, Matt. I had this big, head of hair. So he was probably a little stunned, like, where did my hair go to?
Right.
But I'm not going to make these Joe Garagiola jokes, No. Joe Garagiola used to love to joke about being bald. I'll
do that for you later, Jack. It's great having somebody on that has perspective that, talks to these older players. And, like we've discussed before, small ball to me, Jack, is gone. I don't know why it's gone, but, hopefully the teams start turning back to it again. So what we're going to do, Jack, is going to take our last official timeout, and we'll be back after these messages. On the other side, we've got, we have the This Day in Sports, where we'll be talking about what happened in this day in sports as events and birthdays go. So let's get to that. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after these few messages.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVET. Each year, AMVET's members volunteer millions of dollars to VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Volunteer Services Program. AMVET's posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETs by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Remember, it can't be loud.
And they will hear you every single time.
How are you killed?
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Well, there's Jack's rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack. We just had on Dan Hirschburg talking a little bit about old-time baseball. So I figured that why not put that on there, and it's good for that. So today, folks, we had the Philly sports guy, Jamie Pags, on with us talking a little bit Philadelphia sports. Dan Hirschburg talking a little bit about Phil Rizzuto and the great Yankee teams back then, and about how baseball has changed over the years a little bit. So there you go, Jack. So that was our guest today. Pretty good guest lineup. And I want to talk a little bit. Well, let's get to this first, Jack. We have had some comments on the show. Dean Coleman talked a little about the Browns, a little bit about the Giants.
Dean Coleman, let me also have.
Yes, so Dean Coleman did.
Well, the Browns are soft 8-3. The 8-3, the record is outstanding, but they're a soft 8-3. If any team is a candidate to get into the playoffs and lose their first game, that's the Cleveland Browns this year. They're not going to get past the first round of the playoffs, but just getting there would be a good thing.
Well,
Even if they go 2-3 the rest of the year and they finish 10-6, that makes it a successful year for them.
Yeah, even if they just go 9-7, Jack, at least they had a winning season for the first time in a long time.
Well, when you're 8-3, you don't want to talk about 9-7. Keep in mind this: when Eric Mangini, his last year with the Jets, he was 8-3, and then he lost 4 of his last 5 games. The Jets finished at 9-7. That's the year when they had Brett Favre. and they were both gone after that. I mean,
Yeah.
Mangini was fired at the end of the season. That was his third year with the Jets. And when they were 8-3, he was still being hailed as man genius.
Yeah,
And then he was man gone 5 games later.
And I want to talk a little bit about a little fundraising we're doing. It's up on Max Sports Facebook page. Byron Williams, a guest on our show that comes on every Friday, ex-Giants, Eagles receiver. In fact, he was a receiver for a lot of teams in the NFL and the CFL and the WFL. But he's particularly on the show, and a lot of people know him as being a former receiver for the Giants. He has a foundation called the Best Wishes Foundation. It's for underprivileged kids. He sponsors a camp. He brings out ex-former football greats like Phil Simms and others that come out and support this. So if you got a chance, what we would like you to do, starting at an offer of $50. All you got to do is like the Max Sports page so we can contact you, personal message. And if you have the winning offer, you can go to his foundation and just donate, especially around the holiday season. It's good for these kids to have role models and keep them out of trouble. What we're auctioning off for this month anyway is this, Jack. It's a 1990s Super Bowl team where you have Jeff Hostetler, O.J. Anderson, Maurice Carthon, a couple of Giants receivers, Dave Meggett, and a few of their linebackers. It's the 30th anniversary of that Super Bowl team. And just for an offer of $50, you can have it. You can display it on your wall. You can put it away in a notebook for future generations. So just for $50, all you got to do is like Max Sports fan page so we can contact you. And the offer starts at $50. Folks, please donate to this worthy cause. So Byron's a great guy. Does a lot of work
for stuff for good cause.
Oh, he works well with the kids, and of course we know that kids got to have some kind of role models, to look up to. We also have on board a new advertiser, Jack's a sponsor, which is bst.com, Breakers and Cards. We'll be doing our commercial read for them tomorrow. But folks, go to our website and check them out. They're a great site. You'll get $10 off just by mentioning the code MACJack, which is pretty cool. You get $10 off. They already got great savings, and we'll do a great commercial read for them tomorrow. And check them out. They're a great company and have great cards. So, Jack, we're going to get to our This Week in Sports, or this day, I should say. This week we talked about it for days. But This Week in Sports History, where we have events and we also have, birthdays that we talk about. So let's get to that, Jack. So This Week in Sports in 1948, Jack, Stan the Man Musial was named the NL MVP. He batted .348, scored 135 runs, batted in 131 RBI. He had 230 doubles, Jacks, 46 triples, and 39 home runs. How's that for a year?
The one thing sports fans maybe should have debated a little more during that time, not who was better, Joe DiMaggio or Ted Williams, but who was a better hitter, Ted Williams or Stan Musial. I mean, Ted Williams in general would be given a slight edge, but you can make a very great argument for Stan the Man Musial, one of the great hitters in baseball history.
I mean, the guy held so many records for so long that it's unbelievable. People just don't mention him enough when they talk about the greatest
greatest St. Louis Cardinal of all time.
Oh, easily.
Stan the Man Musial.
Easily. So in 1951, Green Bay retires Don Hutton's jersey, number 14. Don Hutton, a great wide receiver. Of course, that was before the great Lombardi teams, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, there was football. I mean, before Lombardi came to Green Bay, they were chronic losers. for the most part. Well, under Curly Lambeau, I mean, they were like outstanding for time, but then they hit a bad patch, kind of like what the Yankees did in the late 60s and early 70s. But there were a lot of great players. I mean, in the last century that were around the 1950 time that we really don't talk about, and he was one of them.
Very true. In 1963, Major League Baseball bans oversized catcher's mitts. I'd never heard of that, Jack.
No, I mean, you heard the way they would mess with gloves and with this and that, and catching. Wow, catching's not my thing. I actually caught one game in Little League. I wanted to try every position at one point, and I mean, catchers work hard. Sometimes you see these guys behind the plate, and especially when it's a hot day and they have to catch an extra inning game. It's tough work for a catcher. I mean, physically harder, arguably, than any other position.
Oh, definitely. I mean, but I just it's some of the things that they've banned and some of the things that they brought back. It's just there's so many things that go along with sports that you don't even know about. This segment of This Day in History is brought to you by Fanatics. So if you want to get the clothing of your favorite teams, jerseys, hats, all gear, we have the place for you. Fanatics. Just go to the MacandJackSports.com website called Max Insiders. Click on their link. It brings you right to their store just in time for Christmas. Order your special someone's birthday, gift, or just treat yourself to your favorite team's clothing and gear. That's MacandJackSports.com. Brings you to the website, Max Sports Insiders. Click on the Fanatics link for all your team's clothing and gear. So getting back to that, Jack, we got something from the Philadelphia Eagles. In 1951, they set a record with 25 rushing touchdowns, Jack.
25 rushing touchdowns in a what?
Yes, in a win.
Not in one game, Mac.
They set a record with 25 rushing touchdowns, Jack.
In what? In a month? In a week? In what, Mac?
Well, there's only one game a week.
About here, I mean, 25 rushing touchdowns. They didn't score those in a game.
Of course not. Of course not.
25 times 6.
But can you imagine?
6 points. That's 150 points, Mac. It wasn't done in a game.
Of course, I'm saying in 1951, Jack.
Oh, 50 for season.
There you go.
Doesn't seem that great. A 14-game season. It seems okay. That's like a touchdown and a half a game. That was a record then.
That was a record back then.
No wonder the modern players, I mean, aren't going to be impressed. The modern teams.
Not at all. But that was a record.
I mean, you come up with this great stuff.
That was
great that you come up with all the time. But that one, I don't care for as much.
That was a record.
Stuff is good. You come up with.
That was a record for 1951, Jack. So there
51. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So. In 1971, Frank Robinson is traded from the Orioles to the Dodgers, Jack.
That was the second time he was traded. Frank Robinson was traded by the Cincinnati Reds at the end of the 1965 season. He was traded for Milt Pappas, okay? So the Orioles trade Milt Pappas to Cincinnati, and Robinson goes to the Orioles. Because the Reds thought that Frank Robinson was maybe declining. His skills were declining. His skills declined so much in the 1966 season that he won the Triple Crown that year and led the Orioles to a World Series sweep over the Dodgers. So much for skills declining. But when he was traded at the end of the 1971 season, it's strange because the Orioles had won 3 pennants in a row. Okay, they lost to the Miracle Mets in 69. They beat the Reds in 1970. And then they lost to the Roberto Clemente-led Pirates in 1971, losing the 7th game 2-1. So it's strange, and a player with that success would be traded again. But he wasn't quite the same player when he went to the Dodgers. So this time around, he really was declining a bit. But Frank Robinson had success in baseball as a manager. So when he was the first black manager in the big leagues.
Very
You know,
true.
people don't talk about that.
So it goes to make you think, Jack. When players are, they become free agents or they're let go. I mean, who would really knows the truth about, for instance, Brett Gardner, right? We seen last year, his batting declined, his fielding declined, especially in the beginning of the year. He kind of came on at the end of the year. Who's to say next year that he doesn't have a renaissance year and he comes in, he bats near 300, steals some bases, and his fielding improves? I mean, how do you really know as an owner or a GM? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, Mac. Wait.
Go right ahead.
Something came up 1 second.
Go right ahead. So Jack had to disappear for a second. He had to take care of some business. Getting back to the events in history. In 1974, the Major League Baseball changes its philosophy to permit cowhide rather than just horsehide in manufacturing baseballs. And folks, I didn't even know that there was a question of what kind of hide you use for baseballs. In fact, I didn't even know what they used for baseball hides, whether it was some kind of material, synthetic material. I guess today maybe it would be. But, at one time they used horsehide for baseball. Let me bring Jack's back. Let me bring him back in. And maybe Jack heard about it.
No, that's little something came up. Everything's fine, and I'm glad to be back.
Excellent. So, Jack, in 1974, as I was saying to the viewers, Major League Baseball changes its philosophy to permit cowhide rather than just horsehide in manufacturing baseballs.
That's stuff that's really out of my element, what they do with the baseballs and this and that. It's just, with the new technology, you just wonder with the bats and the balls, what advantages they have. Like we were talking in the past show about Frank Home Run Baker. He led the major leagues with 12 home runs. Before Babe Ruth came along, that was the record that the Babe broke.
Right.
If a guy hit 12 home runs, he was considered a massive power hitter.
Right.
But the ball had to have something to do with it because they played in the dead ball era.
Well, that's why what Ruth did was so remarkable. But yeah, the ball wasn't as tight as it is today. There's no doubt about that. Probably not as light either.
Supposedly the ball changed when the Babe played, so it wouldn't just go flat when he hit it, supposedly.
Right.
But who knows?
And he swung a 2x4 too, as opposed to today's lighter, harder bats. But it just maybe that had something to do with the baseballs going out of the park faster, Jack, by changing from horsehide to use cowhide too. I don't know either. So back to
you talk about Sammy Sosa. When they found cork in his bat.
To make the bat lighter.
Supposedly that helps quite a bit. And when George Steinbrenner failed to re-sign Reggie Jackson after he was with the Yankees for 5 years, and Reggie went to the California Angels and had a rebirth, George Steinbrenner said, well, he probably has cork in his bat. So
right. But yeah. That makes the bat lighter, which probably led to the lighter, harder bat. Yeah. A lighter, harder bat now. So, those guys are probably ahead of their time. So back to trading, letting players go, Jack. Again, we got somebody in Brett Gardner who's played a long time for the Yankees. Of course, there's other players on other teams that have played.
Speaking of Brett Gardner, no one's really talking about him, whether he's going to be back or not. I think the Yankees absolutely will address the Brett Gardner situation, but they got to go point to point. They've got to resolve the DJ LeMayo situation, re-sign him, or if they can't re-sign him, then they're going to have to go to plan B. I think Brett Gardner, the Yankees are going to welcome back. They already gave him his $2.5 million buyout, right. Rather than giving him $10 million on the year, meaning they don't want to pay him an additional $7.5 million. But I think they will make an offer for Gardner to come back at maybe $3 million a year, or $2 to $3 million in that range. and then it's up to Gardner. But Gardner's probably going to have another offer out there, so it's going to
You think so?
50-50 whether he's going to be back.
You really believe another team will offer him more than?
Oh, yeah, another team.
Yeah.
Listen, another team. I can see another team maybe offering him 1 year, $6 million. And the Yankees aren't going to go that high. The Yankees might do 1 year, $3 million. And then Gardner's going to have to make a decision whether the extra $3 million. The Yankees might go $3 to $4 million. Gardner's going to have to make a decision whether the extra $2-3 million for 1 year is worth it. And you never know. A team might surprise us. They might offer Gardner a 2 year, $10 to $12 million deal. And then it's touch and go. The Yankees won't offer more than 1 year, and probably at a little less money than another team would offer. There's going to be an offer out there for Gardner. You just have to listen to even the Met broadcasting team. When they played the Yankees, I switched the channels, Mac, and I would listen to Ron Darling talking, and he would be raving about Brett Gardner, how, what a good player he is, this and that. And Ron Darling didn't have to talk that highly of Brett Gardner. So you have to figure executives around the league, a few of them are going to think the way Ron Darling is, okay? And they're going to want to sign a guy like Gardner.
Well, that would open a door for Clint Frazier to become the starting left fielder.
He's going to be the starter anyway, even if the Yankees re-sign him. This is Clint Frazier's time. The Yankees absolutely are going to want him to be the starting, left fielder. But I'm going to say this, though. When you look at the Yankee injury situation with Aaron Judge, Gardner's a nice spare part to have around. A nice spare part.
Very true. There are rumors that they are offering Clint Frazier and another person for a high free agent prospect out there, but it's right now.
I can't see it, Mac. The only way I mean, the Yankees have had so many opportunities to part with Clint Frazier before. They haven't done it. I mean, if they can get Francisco Lindor, would they do it?
The room right here.
But then they have the contract with Lindor that they're going to have to deal with by next year. And I don't quite think it could be worth it money-wise to them. But Yankees going to have to do something, and they're going to have to be creative this year.
Yeah, there's also rumors of Sanchez maybe being let go to become a free agent too. Some more rumors I've heard. So getting to the birthdays, Jack, in 1984, in his second year, Dan Marino breaks the record by throwing 48 touchdown passes, Jack.
People forget how great Dan Marino was. If I told you Dan Marino was the best passer in the history of the NFL, it's hard to argue against it. I'm not saying he necessarily was, but if I said he was, I mean, he did amazing things. I mean, the thing that holds us back as far as mentioning Dan Marino's name when we talk of the greatest quarterbacks of all time is, he never won a Super Bowl, only went to one. And he did in his rookie year. You would think he would be back a number of times. So the Dan Marino situation is players shouldn't take going to a championship game, to a Super Bowl for granted. Because when you get there one time, make the most of it, because you might not get another chance. And he lost out to a great 49er team that had Joe Montana at the helm.
And a great team is the key word there.
Yeah,
I mean, Jack, you could have the greatest quarterback in the league. I mean, right now, it's hard to argue that Mahomes isn't. But Mahomes has a great team. I mean, his defense is no joke. They got a good special teams. They're just a solid team,
Yeah, they're my pick. I mean, I know the Steelers are 10-0, so on. But when push comes to shove, Kansas City's going to be tough to beat in the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. And the Titans too now, Jack. I think they finally got their rhythm back. So in 1985, Jack, Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan almost come to blows in Chicago's loss, their only loss of the season, during the first half against the Miami Dolphins with Dan Marino.
The Chicago Bears should have fired Buddy Ryan, their owner. The owner should have stepped in and fired Buddy Ryan. I get it. He was a great defensive coordinator, setting up the 46 defense. The bad defensive players loved him, but he would be turning the players against the head coach. That's completely unacceptable. But for all of Buddy Ryan's talk and his bravado, how great he was by claiming, well, he's the reason the Bears won. Buddy Ryan was given this opportunity as a head coach with the Philadelphia Eagles and then later on with the Houston Oilers. And he never took a team to the Super Bowl. It came close to taking them to the Super Bowl. So I don't want to hear how Buddy Ryan used to say how much better a coach he was than all the other coaches. Well, he never really proved it that way. He did a great job as a defensive coordinator, but as soon as he started to undercut the head coach, Mike Ditka, he should have been put in line, and then if he didn't get it together and continued to put down the head coach, he just should have gotten fired point blank.
Well, Buddy Ryan did have some very competitive teams when he was the head coach of the Eagles, Jack.
Well, they went to the playoffs 3 years in a row.
Right.
But for a guy who has self-proclaimed as the greatest, would always tell us the way he knew so much more than the other coaches, how much better coach than he was than them. Just going to the playoffs 3 years in a row isn't enough. You got to take the next step. You got to go to the Super Bowl. You got to win a Super Bowl. And Buddy Ryan never took it to the next step. That's the point I'm trying to make. He went not to Houston. He went, I believe, to Arizona as the head coach.
I'm not
sure. But he had a number of years to get a team to the Super Bowl when he was running the show, and he just didn't do it. So for a guy who was and that's how Rex Ryan got his braggadocio from his dad, Buddy Ryan. They would come to the Jets as a head coach. He wasn't as bad, Rex Ryan. He said, I'm not here to kiss Bill Belichick's ring. We're going to do that. Rex Ryan was flamboyant, but he would be a little more gentle than his dad. Rex Ryan was fun. His dad was a little nasty to him. But a funny thing about Buddy Ryan, which I liked, and you got to give him credit, he was a great assistant coach. Him along with Walt Michaels ran the Jet defense the year they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
And Weeb Ewbank, the Jet coach, took Buddy Ryan under his wing. And Buddy Ryan always loved Weeb Ewbank. He was the only head coach that Buddy Ryan respected. And once Buddy Ryan he once brought Weeb Ewbank on as a consultant when he was with the Philadelphia Eagle head coach. And someone asked Buddy Ryan about a certain defense to run. And Buddy Ryan said, this is utterly ridiculous. Why would I want to do anything like that? It makes no sense at all. And someone said, well, Weeb Ewbank thought it would be a good idea. And Buddy Ryan was shook up and he said he did. And then Buddy Ryan said, well, if Weeb says so, then it's good enough for me. He kind of reversed his opinion. Yeah.
There you go. We're getting to the birthdays. We did miss a couple with our days off. Of course, Mariano Rivera, he had a birthday. Thing about Mariano Rivera, it didn't matter whether you stole his signs or not because he threw one pitch, basically, a 96-mile-an-hour cutter that would break your bat. So, during the end of his career, Jack, I seen him go to the outside corner a little bit. But his bread and butter was that 96-mile-an-hour cutter on your hands, Jack.
He learned to cut it by accident. The cutter was an accident. He was playing catch with Ramiro Mendoza. And Ramiro Mendoza got mad at him. They were throwing the ball because the ball was doing funny things. And he kept telling Rivera, stop this. They're just fooling around having a catch. And Mel Stottlemyre was trying to correct the cutter in the beginning. No one had ever known what a cutter was.
Right.
They didn't know they had the greatest weapon ever, and they were trying to correct it in the beginning.
That's crazy. So, Houston Astros stealing signs wouldn't have really worked for Mariano Rivera, Jack. That's for sure.
Yeah, they basically knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Just give me the cut. The cutter's coming.
I think stealing signs is a little overrated as far as pitch tipping. Maybe I'm wrong here. I'll acknowledge I could be wrong. But if the pitch is really effective, even if you know what's coming, you still got to hit it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't really matter if, Randy Johnson, you knew he was going to throw a fastball and his front leg almost reached home plate. Go ahead and hit it. You know what I mean? And when you're that good, it's hard to hit no matter what you're throwing. So.
Yeah.
So also, Monica Seles was born in 1973. Monica won 9 tournaments, Jack. She was one of the best female tennis players of all time. I think you'd agree with that.
At her peak, one of the best, and we debated this in the past. At her peak, she was better than Steffi Graf at her peak, and she proved it by getting the better Graf head-to-head. But then this nut job, who was a big Graf supporter in Germany, stabbed Monica Seles. She was never the same. She won a couple of major tournaments after that, but she was never the same player. And
Right.
Steffi Graf, benefited by that, even though Steffi Graf, had nothing to do with the horrendous crime that took place.
Yeah, you think about that, Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, how surprised, how shocked, and how terrified you got to be going back on a tennis court when somebody actually jumps out of stands and stabs you. I mean,
well, what happened once at a tournament with Roger Federer? A fan came on the court to just get his autograph or to wish him well while the game was going on. And Federer accommodates the public. He's very good with the public, but he was looking around. Where's security? Listen,
Right.
I was watching a replay of when Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's home run record, and Hank Aaron is running around the bases, and you see a couple of fans run out to shake his hand, pat him on the back when he's between second and third, and that's terrifying with all the death threats he got. Where the heck was security?
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary sometimes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I just can't imagine going through that and playing the same sport again. Somebody stabbing you while you're playing at a big match. Aaron Rodgers, Jack, born in 1983. Of course, he lived in Brett Favre's shadow for a while. Has now probably, I ain't going to say surpassed Brett Favre, but is regarded as high as Brett Favre. With the way
a funny thing, we keep talking about Carson Wentz on this show with Jalen Hurts waiting in the wing. We never talk about Jordan Love, the quarterback the Packers took in the first round and traded up to get him. They traded up to get him. Jordan Love is completely irrelevant, because of the way Aaron Rodgers is playing as opposed to Carson Wentz. But if Aaron Rodgers was struggling, we'd hear Jordan Love's name come into the conversation.
So, in your opinion, Jack, see, me maybe because I'm a little bit more older than some folks. Maybe
a little, not compared to me, man.
No. I still think Brett Favre was a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, anyway.
I mean, it's feasible to think that way. No one could say you don't know what you're talking about. That's a reasonable thing to say. I think the difference is Brett Favre was more an old school quarterback where they allowed the gunslinging more.
Yeah.
He was the ultimate gunslinger. And
I mean, there's no doubt Rodgers' arm is good as far as there's no doubt about that. But when I saw Favre go and almost take the Minnesota Vikings to the Super Bowl, I mean, they one play away where he got beat up the whole game, and then
go great year, Brett Favre.
And go to the Jets, and before he got hurt, the Jets were like, what were they, like 7-2 or something? I mean, they were just tearing up the league when he went to New York. I mean, I just see that Brett Favre has done it more places, but man, Aaron Rodgers is really good. I mean, half dozen one, half dozen other.
Yeah, listen, if they were both young men, they were both 22 years old beginning their career, and Aaron Rodgers is the Packer quarterback, and the Packer fans are told, sorry, Rodgers has to go elsewhere, but Brett Favre is going to be a quarterback from now on. Packer fans wouldn't be complaining either.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be thrilled either way.
Sure. And a sports athlete we talk about a lot on this show about what the Yankees are going to do with him. Gary Sanchez was born in 1992. I still think, Jack, that they got to move away from Gary Sanchez and go find him a catcher.
I get the feeling that's what it's coming down to. I mean, they don't want to give up on Sanchez, but who's going to be the starting catcher next year? I mean, that's one of the big questions they really, really have to address. It's a gamble. You could be with Sanchez. You could go with Sanchez again, but he's been with them already several years, and it's a roll of the dice. It really is.
I think there's three good catchers out there right now: Realmuto, McCann, and even Molina.
McCann, the way you suggested a while ago. Kudos to you for that.
Yeah, I think that the Yankees would be better served going getting themselves one of those guys. So we're out of here, Jack, for today. We'll be back tomorrow on our Thursday show with special guests, our weekly guests, Iceman John Scully, and more great news and updates for you. So join us tomorrow, same time, 8 to 10 a.m. Jack, have a great day. Viewers out there and listeners, have a great day.